Anyway, it's been a while. So I thought that I would just sit down and chat to you about some of the books that I have read recently. Because I've read some really good books, and if you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen a bit of them, but this is different. This is just me yapping. I am here for my YouTube subscribers. I'm back. So I'm just gonna chat. I'm just gonna yap. We're just gonna have a little chatty book club situation. And I really want to start with one of the standout books that I've read recently, which is Off Season by Abigail Sharp. This is a debut novel from an American writer. She has written what I really feel is like your classic weird girl novel. And I know that like that term, that subgenre maybe has sort of lived and died and like had its time, and a lot of like writers slash publishers pursued that trend in the literary world, I feel. And it was really like a moment and a trend, and there were so many books coming out that were being called weird girl lit, and they were awesome. And then I feel like the moment just became so saturated. Weird girl lit became so saturated, and commodified, and it just shifted. And of course that's gonna happen. But when I read this, it really like took me back to those like early days of weird girl lit, when it was like my year of rest and relaxation, and Boy Parts by Eliza Clark, and like Mona Awad's early works. And it just felt like it wasn't trying to be a weird girl novel. It felt like Abigail just has this really quirky, dark sense of humor, and it's really authentic. And that's what came through in the writing. And so this book basically follows this 28-year-old woman who takes a job as like a temp teacher at an all-girls school in this like little coastal town. And so she's there. It's like this little town where people holiday, but she's there during the school term, so she's there during the off season. And it follows her like entry into this job and the like strange characters that she meets in the town, mainly, if not all, men. She's carrying a trauma that's never like explicitly sort of revealed, but she has this trauma that she refers to a lot. She's also like really obsessed with Joseph Stalin, like in a weird, inappropriate kind of obsession. And she makes the girls in her class read this really long Charles Dickens book. She's really obsessed with Bleak House. So she's just a bit of a wacko, and she's, your real kind of like delusional, unreliable female protagonist. She's super delulu. She's a total wacko, and she's hilarious. And I think for me, I really love a sense of humor that is like sort of, I guess, edgy maybe is the word, or like verging on like, ooh, I don't know if you can say that. I like that, so it really worked for me, the sense of humor, but I just had a really fun time with it, and I found I underlined a lot of parts. The protagonist is like this super awkward like character. This passage here goes, she goes into a bar by herself, and once she gets to this new town, and it says, I downed my beer and ordered another. At the surrounding tables, patrons were talking, laughing, slapping one another heartily on the back. I tried to laugh too, but whenever I made too loud of a sound, those at the table closest to mine would stop speaking and glare at me. So I smiled silently and nodded, and took dainty sips of my beer, picking it up with both hands, like an image I once encountered of an adorable raccoon nibbling on something inappropriate, a prepackaged toaster strudel, perhaps. "This is my favourite bar," I whispered to myself. The fact that it was disgusting and that everyone obviously wished I wasn't there made me feel it was a genuine working-class establishment, by and for the people, that I too was one of the people, undeniably one of the people here tonight. Oh, the way, I don't know, I just feel like Abigail has this way with words, everything feels so, like, I hate to say it, but sharp. I want to read one more passage that I just think is so hilarious, and this is probably an example of, like, the humor that I am leaning into, so, you know, take that into consideration. This is like, she's met some guy on the street in the middle of the night, and she's struck up a conversation with him. He's kind of scruffy, and he's telling her this story about how he, like, got beat up one day by these two meth heads. Billy explained that one of the meth heads was white and one of them was black. I nodded, feeling appreciative of his commitment to pointing out racial diversity among meth heads. Billy told me he was a nationalist. "Oh," I said. I wondered if I should have understood this already from the camouflage cap he wore over his matted, pale brown hair, but to make an ideological judgment based upon someone's choice of hat seemed to be against my values. He was Polish, he told me. It was the white meth head, Billy said, who had given him the final shove over the bridge. He maintained a magnificent level of eye contact with me as he spoke. I began to fear that he might be falling in love with me. I told him I was Jewish. I also really loved Phantom Days by Angela O'Keeffe. And this is not a debut. I believe this is Angela's third book, and I enjoyed it so much that it's really made me want to read more of Angela's works. I really, really liked her writing. I was really impressed with it. It's so concise. Like, this is a tiny book, right? This is a very small book. It's only like 160 pages. But it really packs a punch. Like, its size is no detriment to its heart, you know. It follows a woman who experiences a phantom pregnancy, which is basically like where your body thinks it's fallen pregnant, but there's nothing there. And so you get all the symptoms of pregnancy, and your stomach literally grows, but there's no fetus, there's nothing growing inside of you, which is crazy to think about that that's something that actually happens. But yeah, so this woman, she's going through a phantom pregnancy, but nobody in her life, which really, you know, is just her mother and her, like, increasingly abusive ex-partner, who is the would-be father of this non-existent child. They can't really wrap their heads around it. They don't really think it's happening or know how to, like, understand that it is actually a thing that is actually happening. And so you go through this sort of, mind you, okay, the most important probably part of this book is the fact that a large portion of it, if not all of it, I don't think all of it, but a large portion of it is told from the perspective of a book. It's a book that passes from the hands of the woman, well, from the author to the woman, to the increasingly abusive ex-partner, and so on. And the book is narrating and, like, learning things about these characters. And so it's a really interesting perspective, because it's like, you know, the book's just kind of on the coffee table or on the mantelpiece in the house with this person alone. And so you see them as they are in their home alone, which is a really, really interesting sort of objective, non-biased perspective. So yeah, we sort of go on this journey of this phantom pregnancy as witnessed by a book. And I just felt, I was just really, really impressed with with how much Angela fit into such a short book. And I wonder about her choice to keep it so short, because I do feel like it is a rare encounter these days. I do feel like a lot of novels that are coming out are on the longer side, 300 pages plus kind of thing. So it is really interesting for this to be a new release that is under 200 pages. Really rare. And yeah, it really packs a punch. Like, the relationship between the mother and the daughter especially, it felt so realistic to me. Like, it's so fraught. There's so much tension between them, but it's also, like, really tender, and the mum's like, I don't understand this fucking phantom pregnancy thing, but I'm gonna, like, care for you. And then there's, like, this building tension of the ex who, like, is heartbroken that they've broken up, and is, like, getting, like, increasingly aggressive about this pregnancy that he's just, like, will not hear is a phantom pregnancy. And so there's, like, that tension really building, and I really enjoyed it. And then in all of that, like, obviously, like, there's intense themes and dark things happening, it still felt quite playful. Like, it still had this levity, and I think that came from the fact that it's narrated by a book, which is just, I think, an objectively playful approach. So yeah, I was really, really impressed, and that's why I want to read more of Angela O'Keeffe's works. I believe she has 2 other books, and I believe that each of her books are inspired by or incorporate in some way an artist. And so this one, I keep forgetting who it is. I believe on the front here is maybe artwork by... Nope. No, it's not. Ignore me. I think this one references Cézanne. And then I think one of her other books is... I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and, like, guess at it. But each of her works has something to do with an artist, which I just find a really sort of interesting, like, approach thematically to, like, have this sort of, like, consistent thread through your body of work. It's, again, a playful, I guess, approach. So I appreciate that. So I will be reading more of Angela O'Keeffe. I really liked this one. I definitely recommend it, especially because it is such a short read. One that I was, like, super excited for was the new Claire Daverley. If you've been around a while, then you will know how much I love Talking at Night, which was Claire Daverley's debut novel. I just adored it. It was, like, this right person, wrong time love story that spanned quite a few years, a decade, if not more, maybe. And I just thought it was so beautiful and so heartbreaking. And I love a story that just sort of, that makes you, like, scared to lose time with people, or just makes you want to, like, make sure that the people you love know that you love them, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? A book that reminds you to prioritize love above all else is always a book that's going to really fucking stand out to me. So I was really, really excited for People in Love because, yeah, Claire Daverley really impressed me and really moved me with her first novel. I will say that this one didn't quite hit as hard for me, unfortunately. I think just because I think Claire lent a lot more into traditional romance tropes with this book. And so I just was unable to connect with it as deeply. It didn't quite affect me as emotionally, I suppose. I think it felt a little... I don't know, like, it was still literary. And not that, like, see, this is where I enter dangerous territory where people are going to think that I'm, like, poo-pooing romance novels. I'm not. I just don't really enjoy them that much personally. But I think because I was picking up on those tropes, I did feel like maybe I maybe it just had this cheesiness to it that I wasn't able to connect with. Maybe that's it. I did feel like I knew how it was going to play out, which isn't necessarily always a bad thing, but I think this plot in particular was a real, like, will she, won't she, who's it going to be? Like, it's a love triangle. You kind of don't want to know how the love triangle's going to play out. Also, and I feel like this is a really important thing that I want to address and like talk to people, but it's such a niche thing to address, and I kind of can't address it without spoiling the book. So I have to keep this really vague, but basically there's something that happens in this book that happened in a quite popular Australian TV series a long time ago, like 15 years ago, that really, really caused a lot of people a lot of big feelings, let's say. It was a big event. And that same thing happened, or like something along those lines, obviously not like the exact same thing, but like something similar happened in this. And so I was able to like, that really was quite obvious to me, I think. It was supposed to maybe be a little bit of like a shock, or like you weren't quite meant to see it coming, but because I had seen that before, I knew how it was going to play out, and so that I feel like I was just like reading the book waiting for that to occur. And then when it did play out, I was kind of let down by where she went with it. I think it was played quite safe, which again feels like that leaning into traditional romance genre, of not, pushing maybe the boundaries too much, or like causing, like being too edgy or causing too much upset in the reader or something. I don't know. I feel like I'm getting into spoiler territory. But yeah, there were things for me that I just wasn't able to connect with it, very specific to that experience. If you have read it and you have seen the Australian series that I'm talking about and you know what I'm talking about, can you please message me and let me know, because I feel like I need to acknowledge this with someone. I need someone to be like, oh my god, I know, as soon as that happened, it reminded me of this in the TV show and I knew what it, blah, 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 blah. Like, I want to know someone out there had the same experience as me. But anyway, I do think that for the most part, Claire Daverley fans will like this book. I've spoken to other people who, like friends of mine who've read it now and have loved it. So I think I'm just being like quite picky with it, unfortunately. That's not to say that it's like, oh no, Claire Daverley has flopped with her second book. Like, that's definitely not the case at all. I'm probably just being a bit of a harsh critic with it. I like breezed through. I read it really quickly. I was in it, you know, I was charmed by the characters. I was invested in the story. It's like an easy read. Yeah, it's one to take on holiday, I feel. Which is not a backhanded compliment, even though it sounds like one. And then, what else do I have here in this pile? Oh, Fruit Fly by Josh Silver. This one I feel has been kind of everywhere lately. And as it should, because yeah, it's really fun and interesting. I saw Josh at the Sydney Writers' Fest, and after hearing him speak about his book, I have like a way deeper appreciation for it, to be honest with you. I thought like after I read it initially, I was like, oh yeah, like that was fun. I really liked the pacing, the way that things unfolded and became more and more sort of intense. Like it was really kind of, the tension was like stretched to its limits in the best way possible. But what I will say is that it did kind of feel at times like you had to like keep pushing with the story. Like it felt almost like it was dragging, and then like there would be another reveal of something or another little twist or another whatever, and it would like pull you back in kind of thing. So it really like was pulled tight with tension and suspense that it was like almost too much, almost too tedious, but I think he did it really well. It is about, I didn't even tell you what People in Love is about. People in Love is about this woman who is in a really long-term happy relationship, and then, but like they're kind of progressive and she like never really wanted to get married, and then like he randomly proposes to her one day and she's like, sure, what the hell. So now they're getting married, and then her like childhood bestie / love of her life shows up after like 10 years of not seeing each other, and he's like, hey, you remember me? And she's like, what the fucking hell are you doing here? I'm engaged. And love triangle ensues, basically. Fruit Fly is about this writer. I think she's maybe like around 40. Her first novel was like a bestseller, like did so well, was such a success, and now she's like trying to write her second novel and she's having such a hard time figuring out what to write. She's got such writer's block, feeling super uninspired. Her husband is like really successful in his field and she's just kind of like, fuck. And so she gets like drunk at a party and goes into the bathroom and starts Googling how to write a best-selling book, and someone on Reddit is like, go sad, go gay, go dark. Yeah. And so she's like, fuck, well, how do I do that? And she downloads Grindr and makes a profile with photos of her husband that she takes while he's sleeping, and she gets invited to a party, and when she goes to this party she meets this young guy who's quite troubled. He's an addict, his life is very much a mess, and she's like, that's my guy, that's my protagonist, this is my muse, my inspo, and she starts basically stalking him and writing his life, and it kind of spirals from there. A lot is sort of revealed, lots of surprises. There is more to it than one may initially think, and you really end up like sympathizing with both characters and feeling really quite deeply for them. And it's really funny, and it's really uncomfortable. Like, it's very, you're sort of cringing the whole way through, which is quite sort of clever as well that Josh was able to do that. Yeah, I think it's really good. I think it's like there's a good discussion to be had out of it. And yeah, like Josh spoke to his own experience with addiction in a really nuanced way, and how he wanted to kind of portray elements of that in this character in the book. So that was really interesting to hear as well, that approach and that perspective, I suppose, on addiction. But yeah, I really liked it. I think that, like, yes, while at times it felt like I was kind of slogging through it, which sounds awful. Like, that's a really, like, kind of brutal way to put it. It just kind of felt like, a little bit tedious at times. And then it would suck me back in, and I do genuinely think that the suspense was paced out pretty perfectly. It does kind of, like, it builds towards the end. And the ending, I thought, was great, like really, really good. And it's a hard book to like figure out how to wrap up, you know. There's a lot going on, there's a lot of layers, a lot of complexities. And so yeah, I think he did it really, really well. And Josh, previous to this, like this is his adult debut, he's a YA writer. And I do find sometimes that, you know, when writers go from being predominantly YA and they make their foray into adult writing, you can kind of feel sometimes that like they're used to writing YA when you're reading the adult, but it didn't feel like that at all with this. He really, he really sunk his teeth into the adult themes and the adult tone. So yeah, really impressive. Highly recommend. I think I'm gonna leave it there because it's quite long, but if you want me to keep doing this, let me know. It's nice to be back. It's nice to be yapping again. Yeah, I'll see you guys later.